Welcome to the Millionaires mini-series with your hosts Stephanie Keith and Stacey Failing, here to set you up with the most luxurious version of yourself. This podcast is filled with wealthy women vibes and a sneak peek into the millionaire's lifestyle. Whether you're inner millionaire's dreams of taking private jets to deserted islands or you prefer the lighter side of luxury, we have an opportunity for you that is priceless.
Come join us as we share with you all of our juicy money secrets, mindset hacks, and so much more. Money may not buy happiness, but it can provide you with an abundant life beyond your wildest dreams. So turn up the volume, adjust your crown, and get ready to embrace your inner millionaire.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, Stacey and I have a guest that's going to talk about her experience with manifestation and sharing that with her kids, which is something we're super passionate about and I could talk about all day long. So Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. So you've been listening to the podcast for a while and you reached out, and do you want to tell us a little bit about just what your experience has been, like sort of that journey with manifestation?
Yes, definitely. It's been pretty amazing, I have to say. I love your podcast, by the way. It's my favorite. I always go and I'm like, oh man, they didn't record one yet. I'm like waiting for another one while I'm walking on the treadmill, you know. I traded in my listening to music to listening to you guys. So it's been amazing. I started manifesting the wrong way. Let's just put it that way. I had no idea that I was doing it the wrong way. And it was frustrating because you start and you're like, okay, you know, I'm writing in my journal and I'm like doing all the things, realizing that in my head, I'm not even believing these things that I'm writing down. So that's where you came in and your podcast. And I also listened to the Law of Attraction Tribe. And I'm just so passionate about all of that. I get everybody on board that will listen to me. Like, you have to listen to this. It's the best. But I was just doing it, like I said, the wrong way. So once I started really listening to what you guys, you know, had to say, and I also have your app, by the way, and that's super helpful. I love the app. So, so I really started implementing the things that you were telling me to do. And what a shift in my mindset. I mean, because let's be honest, that's really where it comes from. And my whole, not realizing that my subconscious was telling me that, like, you're not going to do that. You can't do that. And all the limiting beliefs, right, that we all have are they just take over. And unless you really learn, because I think everybody thinks like, oh, I know how to manifest. Like, what do? You write it down, you say it a bunch of times, and then, you know, whatever you want comes true. And it's like, and I was that person too, guilty, but that's so not what it is. And there's just, as simple as it is in a way, it's hard too, because you really have to implement all the things that were, I'm just, oh my gosh, every day, if I don't start my day with either my affirmations or, you know, my kids used to think I was crazy. They would see me, they would like come in the bathroom if I was getting ready, and I'd be like in the mirror and I'm like, today's the best day. And I'm, you know, and they're like looking at me like, what is wrong with her? Like, she's crazy.
I just saw like the best TikTok about that, because this girl was posting, she's like, you know, I've been in therapy for years and my therapist kept trying to get me to do mirror work. And I was like, ew, I'm never doing that. That's so cringy. That's so weird. And she said, but then someone sold it to me as witchcraft. And oh my God, I hopped on board. And she's like, and I do mirror work every day. And I'm like, it's so funny how you just have that like little change of perception. And then, you know, it just becomes part of your routine.
Yeah, totally. I felt stupid doing it too, you know? At first you're like, all right, this is weird and I'm hoping nobody hears me. Let me like lock and shut the door, you know? And then I have 3 kids. I'm a wifey and mom of 3 kids. And I really started to think that if I knew some of these things when I was younger and, I had no clue about it back then. I don't even think many people, even though it's been around for, so long, I don't think many people were really into it back then. I mean, let me not say my age, but anyway, I'm up there. So I'm like, wow, like if I would have started really doing this back when, who knows, what would have happened, but better late than never. We'll just say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I feel like I did manifest like when I was younger without even realizing what I was doing. Cause like I had really bad anxiety and I would always like if I got anxious, I would just visualize the outcome that I wanted and like being done with whatever the thing was that was making me anxious. And it would always play out that way. And I just like knew like, okay, as long as I think about it and visualize it, going the way I want it to go, that'll happen. And that would like calm my
Right.
anxiety down. And then decades later, I'm like, okay, the whole time I was like
Yeah.
doing this but I didn't know I was doing this. So it's like so interesting.
Yeah. And when you
Yeah.
dig into learning all about the science behind it and everything, you're really, that proof starts to help you just continue to get more into it because you're like, there is science to back this up. So it has to work. And it's just something we're not taught. So I'm curious, Tara, like what was the thing that kind of changed that all for you? And what are the things that you've been sharing with your kiddos?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, when you have like maybe those like aha moments and you're like, or like you said, when something really starts to work. And once I started doing it the right way, and I was listening to your podcast and I'm like, I really want to start doing this the right way because I was that person that was like, this isn't working. Like, this is stupid. And then I'm like, I must be doing something wrong because I see the science behind it. And I know that, there's got to be more to it. So I started reading some books, the podcast, the app, like everything just came together. And it was business opportunities and just like, oh, it's like so crazy. I get like so like almost like emotional about it because it was so life changing for me. And just even in my own, I have so many limiting beliefs in my own head, just of like, it's probably a whole nother episode for another day, but like things that we're taught and things that were told to us, maybe. I mean, everybody's got a different story, but I didn't believe in myself at all. I had just so much, self-doubt and my confidence level was pretty low. And that started to change. And once I really, like I said, started really doing it the right way, I was getting just business opportunities. I started doing digital and affiliate marketing and things that because I started my own business, wasn't really aligned with which I found out after, with it. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. Like, don't feel like everybody's, because you always feel judged, like, oh, I started something and now I'm stopping it and I'm a failure or whatever. And I got over that. It's like my confidence has been so much better. I got my husband on board, which is, let me tell you, like, ladies out there, you're like, get them to do it with you. And that started to, I mean, we're in the same household, right? So it's like the little things that he was like, wow, okay. Like he started really paying attention. He started listening to it, and little things would happen to us. We would win like hundreds on scratch offs, random things that I've never had happen to me before. And I know that's like a bit of like a different kind of manifesting, but it was because I was open to it and it was possible now. It was like,
How did he get on board? Like, was he on board from like the very beginning, or did he
yeah.
think it was like weird at first and then you kind of had to work on him a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Thought it was weird. Thought that I was like some witchy voodoo, whatever, like woo woo, whatever, And he was like, "Okay, this is whatever." But he was supportive, like nonetheless, he was. But still, like, okay, you do your thing from over there, and I'll just. And finally, he was like, "Wow!" He saw the shift in me, and the mom that I wanted to be a better mom. I mean, we always do, right? I mean, we always want to be a better mom for our kids. And I feel like that's what makes a good mom. If you're worried if you're a good mom, you're a good mom. But it's like that he started to see the shift in me and the way I would handle things and the way I was just my positivity. And sometimes you almost, it almost sounds like cliche, like, oh, like be positive and great things happen and blah blah blah, because people just want to, all the naysayers and people just want to knock you down. Not all the time, but that part was like, I didn't care. I was like, you know what, this is working for me, and like, whatever. And you wanted to just like, the middle finger and move on. But it's like, I felt so good about it that he saw that and he was like, wow, I have so many things that I can change about, myself and the things and our situation and our financial situation we knew needed to change. And I was like, wow, who's this guy admitting that he needs to change?
It's like that
Wow,
energy
okay.
that we always talk about, and it's just contagious when you are in that and people start to see
Yes,
how it's affecting you. They want your secret. Like they see you up leveling, not just like the material things, but just you as a
right.
person change. And people just see that. They notice those things and they want to know, what are you doing? And one of the things that has been big inside of our mastermind is like nobody's husband was on board at first. They didn't buy into it. And then
Yeah.
we started to, do this work together, and they saw that shift. And then they started to question exactly what you were saying. And then Steph and I are big on believing that there is power in doing this together. And so it's awesome that you were able to get him on board, and now your kids. So you're all in this household doing all the work. And because you say the right way. And is it just like the subliminals and the gratitude practices? Is it a combination of all the things that you're saying is the right way? Or is there one particular thing that has stood out for you that's like, this is the thing that I cannot go without?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I probably wasn't too specific when I said that, but yes. So the subliminals on the app, by the way, oh my gosh, amazing. I fall asleep to them and I just love it. And I feel like I wake up. It's like you can't fully, like, people really do think you're crazy unless you're like, please try it. I'm begging you. And then come back to me and tell me that it's like BS, but they never do. And they're like, oh my God, you were right. It's amazing. But the subliminals helped a ton. But also, I think learning how to get that feeling and kind of like, because you almost think that you're lying to yourself, right? Even when you're telling yourself, I have $1 million in my bank account or whatever, you're like, your conscious mind is like, okay, you definitely don't. But when you start to really tap into, this was for me anyway, my subconscious mind of really saying to myself, like, this is possible. And the feeling that I got, I learned this like technique that is marrying the two, like your vision and the feeling. When those two come together, it's life changing. And that's what it was. I wasn't believing it. I was doing the work. I was writing in the journal. And like I said, I was doing all those things, but I was still like in my mind, I was like, yeah, I didn't believe it. So I think, does that help? Like that part, like that, the feeling that I got, I was smelling it. I was visualizing it. I was really like in my dream home and doing all these things and on vacation and smelling like the salt water and, like things like that, that I was like, wow, once that shift happened. And then, like I said, my husband came on board. He's gotten business opportunities. Like, you cannot make this shit up. You just can't,
Yeah.
because it wasn't happening for us before. So I'm like, okay, I mean, come on, hello. And he was like, wow, he's blown away by it. Honestly, he started really like getting into, getting out of like that beta, mindset. I don't want to get into it like that. Maybe people don't even know what that means unless you start like studying it. But the science behind it is so fascinating to me. And I think if everybody would be on board, this world would just be great.
Yeah. And it really
Because
is like coupling your feeling with the thought. And I always like, I guess what helped me with that is thinking about like a radio, and like your feelings are like the volume button. And it's like, you got to amp that up, you've got to like feel it, because when you're feeling it, your body and your subconscious isn't going to know the difference between it not really being there yet. So it's like, you got to energetically get there first. And you do that by feeling it. And then it shows up after that. But you've got to first get there energetically. And that, I think that's the disconnect for so many people. So I'm glad that you kind of were able to figure that out.
Yeah, it wasn't easy at first, but I think that's why the subliminals help a ton, because that repetition going into your subconscious mind when you're not consciously realizing it is what really makes that shift. So every night it's very repetitive, still is for me. Even if I have to listen to something 100 times, I just keep doing it. And eventually you do believe it. I just really would have never thought, honestly, if you would have told me this years ago, before I even started to tap into like manifesting at all, I was totally a non-believer in all of this until it's changing my life. And sometimes when you say it that way, it sounds so like eye roll, but it honestly is. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than, and getting everybody on board was just amazing. My husband and I, being, like I said, you're in the same house, you're working towards the same goals, right? I mean, you're married, you have your kids, you want the same things. You want the good things for your kids. You want them to be able to live the best life that you can possibly give them. So when you're both doing it, it's so powerful.
And it makes it more fun too. So it's like easier to get into those feelings when, you're having fun and talking about it in a positive way versus someone making fun of you, like calling you woo woo. Like, it's a total game changer. Exactly. So how did you get your kids on board? Like, is there anything you do with your kids to kind of get them primed for manifesting?
Yeah. So like I said, at first they were kind of like, okay, but like they say, you kind of have to show, like, they don't really listen to what you're saying. They really start to see what you're doing. And I think that's what was like every day. It's like they kind of saw those habits that I was creating. And I say every morning, I actually just said it to my daughter this morning, and she's so funny. She's like, I know, Mom. We were driving to school and I'm like, today is the most amazing day. Like, today is just so. And she's like, the day just started, Mom. Like, what? And I'm like, but this is my 10-year-old now. So I have like my teenagers like really more on board. And I talk about it with her a lot because teenagers just have a lot of, I mean, we all do, but that phase of their life is just so trying for them. And there's so many different things. And now I didn't grow up in the world of like social media like these kids are now. Mm-hmm. So there's just so many things for them that, like, we like to call like blockers, right? That are always just knocking them down. And it's like, if you continue to just, even if they're rolling their eyes at you, because when I started to talk to she's 16. So when I started to talk to her about it, she was totally like that. She was like, oh, you weirdo, please please shut up. And I'm like, no, really, just listen to me. And then we would be like on a drive somewhere. And I could see her more and more being like, okay, like really listening to me, and then starting to implement it. She suffers from anxiety as well. And, things that have helped her so much about just saying things to yourself, speak highly of yourself. Like, that's she and I, and I know many of us do this. We are our own worst critic. And it's like, if you can start small and maybe do those little things. And that's kind of what I did. Now I'm trying to get my 10-year-old on board, because she's at that age where it's like, I'm trying to do it almost like in a kid way, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want it to be like too heavy for her, because she still, doesn't understand like the whole way that it really works. But I'm having her write down things, and, I am a positive person, and I like all of like the affirmations that have helped me. I'm kind of just doing that with her. And then I have a 5-year-old boy also that we kind of say it before, like, he goes to bed every night and we're like, you're so brave, and you're this and you're that, and things like that I just think is helping them. And I see a change in them because they also see a change in me. So I think it's like that, you're like mirroring and bouncing off one another, and they see like mom and dad, and like, wow, they're like not freaking out over like dumb shit anymore. And like, everybody like loses, like as parents, we always like lose our shit, right? I mean, let's be honest, but it does help you just deal with it differently because you're like, it's not that big of a deal, right? Like I just deal with things way different than I used to.
I love that because it's just, we're all being programmed one way or another. And it's just that reprogramming that you are in a way just implementing all of these things into their subconscious, but it's like they're going to get messages into their subconscious regardless. This world that we live in, we normalize body shaming and all the things that we tell ourselves in this negative mindset. Why not start to implement and normalize those positive things and those affirmations? And we're just not taught that. We don't grow up with people chanting to us in the morning, this is going to be an amazing day. You got this. You're so brave. But what if we did, like you said, if people just would have found this so much sooner and implemented it, what a different world we would live in. And the things that would be normal would be such a positive, it would just have such a positive impact on everybody. And I think you're so like just kids, everybody, any age, teenagers, just this world would be so much better if we had a cheerleader every morning. And why not be our own cheerleader? I just love that you're sharing it with everybody in your family. So that's so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always think about when people are like, oh, that's woo woo or that doesn't work. I'm like, what harm does it do to try it? Because like you said, you're getting brainwashed all the time, regardless. So why not put some positive messages in there, and especially like you were saying for young girls, because my oldest is 14 and social media, it's like, it is a whole different thing it was hard enough experiencing it when we were young, but we didn't have that whole component. And you had made the comment around just feeling, having some of those insecurities. And that's something I think Stacey and I really like understood the gravity of that in our like masterminds and coaching, because that's something that everyone experiences. Like everyone deep down, even if like the exterior, you're like, yeah, I'm super confident. Deep down, like everyone has this feeling of not being enough because we were brainwashed to believe that. Like when I got into subliminals, I realized we've been hearing these messages for our entire lives so that companies could sell us products because that would make us feel better and make us better and make us enough, and like totally made us brainwashed to think like we're not good enough. And so I'm just grateful we found it now, because even though we didn't have this as kids, like we can now teach our kids and like the next generation so that this pattern can stop, because it's so unhealthy,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm like, listen, it's never too early to start. And I feel like, when you're a kid, that's why the imagination of kids is just so amazing, because they don't yet have that. What do they say? It's like the first, 7 years or whatever, you're like such a sponge and you're soaking in all these things. But that's why you hear the way kids speak and like, I can do that. I can do anything. And like, why don't adults feel that way? Like you said, deep down, maybe on the external, they're saying it, but are they really believing it? Probably not. But it's amazing. This, like, that's why I always say like the science behind it, if you really, really get into it, it's like, oh, it's so incredible. And I hear my son, because he's only 5, and the things that he says, and it's like, wow, if everybody can think like that. But as adults, we can get back into like that kid frame of mind or that kid state of mind where it's like, you can't tell me I can't do that. I can do anything. And you really start to believe it the way a kid does, because they're not, like you said, brainwashed by everything yet. And it's our job now as parents, if we're learning this, to then teach them. And I feel like you're probably going to get some pushback, like parents, moms or whatever. You're probably going to get the kids being like, okay, like my mom is crazy, and that's what I got until I did it every day. I didn't care that they were calling me crazy, and I was just every day. And that repetition is power. I feel like it's just after you do start to believe things when you repeat them to yourself constantly. I have little sticky notes. We actually have, my husband and I have this like vision. I don't know. It's not like a vision board. It's like a dry erase board actually. And we switch it all the time, but we have things written on it that are just, today and I don't even know, like just all the things that you want to manifest. And we both, every time we pass it and we're like, we see it and visually, I think that helps too,
Oh
to
yeah.
Steph was saying this is fun. This adds play into your life that we are often missing. And even you having that board with the colorful sticky notes is fun for adults. I love sticky notes,
Yeah,
And so
totally.
if you can have more fun, it becomes easy. And if it becomes easy, then you don't have to sit there and force all those things that we are always trying to force. And your mindset really does shift into, I am open to receiving. And I have this awareness now that why not me? And when you can just have fun with it, it becomes so much easier and you don't have to fight it anymore. You can just let it be. And I think that's one of the best things. And then for your kids to see, like, mom and dad are having fun and playing, what a great atmosphere to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just speaking of having fun, like I really think that is the manifestation, like vibration, because when you think about it, like when kids are having fun and pretending and using their imagination, that's visualization. That's like part of the manifestation process. And so you probably know, like I go to Disney all the time with my kids and I get like super into it. I'm like one of those weird adults that like gets into it and people always make fun of me. Like my husband's like, oh my God, you're like the creepy adult that's like wearing the mini ears or whatever. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't care who makes fun of me because when I go there and I have fun and I act like a kid, I come back and like crazy things manifest. It's like I get into that energy for one day and the whole week is phenomenal. So I'm like, I don't care who laughs at me because I just manifested like a shit ton of money. Okay. So like, like you got to kind of treat it like a science experiment and you can look up studies and I encourage everyone to do that because I get really into that. But at the end of the day, like we can all do our own little experiment and we do that by just going into it with an open mind and trying it and then seeing the results. And like you said, like you have your friends listen to a subliminal and then they're like, oh yeah, you're right. It's like, just try it and let the results speak for themselves. And I just think it's super cool that like you were able to do that and kind of take it on yourself. And from that, your husband made the decision to do it too. And like your kids are warming up to it and doing it too. And it's like, we all have that potential to be that person that changes things for our family and like breaks that negative cycle and like sets a new path. And seeing that you were able to do that, even when manifesting didn't really like work for you in the beginning and you still kept going, is really inspiring. And it's making me think like, okay, wait, maybe I've got to like get back on track with these routines with my kids. Cause it's like sometimes over time your routine shifts and it's so powerful. And it's probably like one of the best things we can do for our kids just to implement that like positive mindset.
Definitely. Definitely. Before they're totally, I mean, like I said, it's never too late, but I just wish I knew it sooner. And I wish that because we're unlearning things is difficult, right? I mean, especially when you're up there and you're in your 40s. Like, but you it's really hard to take all those years of things that were told to you and things that you really did believe about yourself, as seemingly confident as you may have seemed on the outside. Like you said, some people, you think that they're confident, but deep down they really do have those limiting beliefs of themselves and that they really can't do this. And like, I'm literally living proof that don't feel that way. Like, please give it a try. It does not hurt. Instead of binging Netflix at night, that's what I kind of switched from my subliminals. I'm like, instead of watching things like over and over again, like, of course I still here and there and watch my shows or whatever, but I started doing that and started doing more of like those positive messages, and whether it's subliminals or whether you're listening to your podcast or anything like that, just to start your day with it and to end your day with it. That's what I do. I mean, not that everybody has to do the same thing. Maybe you have a busy schedule or whatever, but I just started to get into a routine with it that this is my life now. Like, that's, this is like what I do. And it's been there's been things like I said, you know, business opportunities and things that, I mean, I manifested to be on your podcast. I'm like, this is happening for me. But
Yep.
yeah, like, come on. So it's like things that you really do, like start with you and then get everybody else on board. But don't knock it till you try it. Don't knock it till you try. I cannot stress that enough. That's like my favorite thing to say to people, because it's like you said, like, what do you have to lose? Why not? And especially the people who are always complaining about their lives and they're just, oh, everything is so, you know, bad and this and that. And it's like, but are you doing anything to try to change that? I'm just saying,
Right.
you know?
Yep. I know
And
that's how
super
I am now. I'm
easy.
like, I don't want to hear it if you're not even going to try to change it
Yeah.
yourself, you know?
And there's
Yeah.
super easy things that you can do that don't take a lot of time, you know, and there's been so many studies about what you listen to or what you watch before you fall asleep at night has a big impact on your subconscious mind. So if you think about the things that are on Netflix and that's the last thing that you're hearing and listening to when you go to bed versus these affirmations and these subliminals that you don't even, I mean, you don't even have to do anything. You put it on and you just go to sleep and it's doing the work for you. And so I'm totally with you. And I think that your story is such an inspiration and anybody can do it. And it just starts with, like you said, starts with you. Take that first step. And, you know, there's so many different ways to be able to manifest, and subliminals is just one way. So, you know, I love, Tara, that you just didn't give up. You're like, this has some power. I know it works. I see it working for other people. And why can't it work for me?
Yeah, definitely. I almost did give up. I'm not gonna lie. Until I was like, no way. There has to be something that I'm like doing, you know, like you said, like wrong, I guess. And then I realized what it was, and that shift. Wow, it's just been so amazing. I just feel great. I really do. I feel so great. And you can't tell people until they experience it themselves.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
but you can like feel your energy, like even through Zoom, like I can feel like you've got this great energy and other people can feel that too. So it's like, that's when people are going to start being like, what is she doing? And like a little more open to hearing it when they see for themselves, like, obviously you're doing great and something's working, you know? So,
Yeah.
okay, I have one final question. What are you currently trying to manifest?
So we had a move recently. Well, it's actually, we've been here a year already, which seems like we've been here for a month, you know, like time goes by so fast. But we recently moved from New York to South Carolina. So we're loving it here. We are, but we went from a house, you know, back in New York into an apartment. We didn't know where we wanted to be. So our dream home that we actually go, this is part of like the visualization and like I said, like the getting yourself in that space where you're smelling it, you're seeing it, we go and we look at houses constantly, even though right now we have to wait a little while, like our lease isn't up and you know, whatever, we just had to sign another year. But we go, we look at houses, we know like this is going to be the way, and the way we speak about it. So our dream home and my business that I'm starting, I've been studying a bunch of courses, and every day I'm like, I'm gonna have, you know, $10,000 days in my business. I usually don't like to limit it to that, because then it's like, why can't it be more? Let me not limit myself even, right? But when so it's been I say mine, but probably because I'll pick out everything. It's going to be our dream home and my business and my husband's business also. He's a bit of an entrepreneur himself. So that's what we're really manifesting right now. And everything, every day, I promise you, this is going to sound like crazy. And I know that people think that it's crazy when you aren't doing it. But every day, it could be the smallest thing or a bigger thing. Something positive happens every single day. It's crazy. I'll get an email, or my husband will be like, oh, so and so reached out to me and they want to collaborate on this, or they want to, you know, do something like that. And none of this, I can't stress it enough. Like none of this was happening for us. Okay. None of this. And it's like, wow. So every single day since we've been really doing it and really coming together, our dream home is literally around the corner. and we're just so excited. So excited. I cannot wait.
We're
Oh,
excited for you.
amazing.
We'll have to continue to follow you and just kind of see where you are and just stay in touch with us. Let us know how that's going. And do you want to share if people want to get in touch with you and ask you more about your journey and just kind of follow along? Do you want to share that or have us put it in the show notes for you?
Absolutely. I would love that because like I said, I've been really studying right now. I'm doing like a few, courses that I'm studying. So I've been a little quiet on my social media. I'm usually a little more, active, but I'm going to start to get back into it because I've been between doing like my manifesting and I did the also I did the 21 day like wealthy woman challenge, and that was so incredible. And people who say that they don't have time, I'm like, seriously, it's 5 minutes. I don't think she talks more than, right, Stephanie? You're like
Right.
more than like 10 minutes. It's like really,
Yeah.
it's really quick. So that's why I always have like, if you have like an answer that's, some sort of thing that you're like, excuses, whatever. No, there is no excuse because it's so quick. And every day I was doing it. And I'm telling you, it's like, wow, writing the things down, implementing everything, and things have just been going in the right direction and going upward, even whether it's 1%, right? 1% better every day. That's what we have to focus on too. And sometimes it's like 100%, but that's what you can ask for. I mean, as long as things aren't going downward, I'm good. So things have been going upward since I've been doing all this. And it's like, wow, I don't even take that long to do it every day. I really don't. It seems like, oh my gosh, it's my whole life, but it's becoming my whole life because that's what I'm living. But the actual actions, if you want to say, are either the subliminals while I'm sleeping and, I'm sleeping anyway, or I do my journal in the morning and it's 5 minutes, or at night it's 10 minutes. I mean, who doesn't have that, especially if you really want to change your life? So
Right.
yeah, totally follow along, see our dream home that we're going to get and all the things. We are so excited.
Thanks, Tara. I love that you just said that you are living it. Like you're manifesting and you have these practices, but it's just become this lifestyle for you. And that's it. Like that's the secret. And I love that for you. So thank you so much for coming on and just being an inspiration and sharing your journey. And we look forward to continuing to follow you and seeing all the wonderful things that you're manifesting.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I listen to your podcast every day, well, every opportunity, when you do them, but I absolutely love it. And it's like such an honor to be here. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Yeah. And we will, you'll be listening to yourself here soon.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tara.
Thank you so much. Bye guys.